everybody. It's another edition of the Rings That Bind show. It comes to you every Thursday like this. Now, this is our 14th episode. And on this episode, we want to take out time to reminisce. So it's a solo edition. I don't have any guests with me today. We're just going to be reminiscing on the previous 13 episodes. Now, combined, our 13 guests or couples that we've had have given us a lowdown of over 200 years experience, because each of them have been married for a length of period, and when you put it together, you imagine the number of experience. So it's not possible that in one episode we'll be able to summarize everything that they have taught us. However, on this episode, we just decide to pick a few of the things that stood out as we had this conversation. The best way to get the maximum benefit is to go back to each of those episodes and watch them. You can do this simply by going to our YouTube channels. You would be able to watch it either on PANACEA VILLE on YouTube or BridgeAfrique magazine on YouTube. You'll be able to watch all the 13 episodes. That's the best way to go. However, in this episode, we want to pick out some things we think would be inspiring. We believe that would help kickstart your journey if you are getting married or you're married and you're having one challenge or the other. We want to use these parts, bits and pieces to inspire, to help give direction to you wherever you are in your relationship. So stick tight, because we are going to be looking at a few things from each episode in the last 13 weeks. Now, the first we're going to be looking at is a conversation, how we started our conversation with the PMEs. Now, before the recording, when we had our pre-conversation, I asked and said, what challenges have you experienced as a couple since you got married? And he went ahead to say, that's Mr. Kiyemi went ahead to say, well, the general challenges that everybody face. And then he was listing and he said, you know what, I can list up to 20. So I just went, interesting, but I didn't say anything until we had that conversation. You want to hear what he had to say about that?
So I think it's a spiritual principle. Yeah, it's a principle that works well. Sorry. Oh God, let me put this on silent. It's a principle that works well. Maybe Emma, you can start so that I can just. So I think it's a principle that works well for many things. The Bible says there's no problem that is facing you that is not common to man.
Yeah.
So there's a big normalization there, even from God. That there's nothing you face that is specially customized for you. You're not having angelic problems. You're having human challenges. Every human being faces this, and some human beings have solved it. So if you search, you can find. Okay, if you search, you can find. So I think what I is done is, I think in the initial part of the initial few first 2 years of the marriage, we kind of like felt it's as if other people are either having a very great time or they are good at faking it. So we felt people are not having problems. Yeah, people are not wearing problems on their faces. People are happy. We are disagreeing. So, but we realized, look, people can look good outside is the human nature as well. We don't try to look like what we're passing through. So we said to ourselves, you know what, why don't we spend this time fixing all the issues, identifying all the challenges, because everybody has challenges. And challenges will, the Bible says, I think it's in Job, it says, man is born to trouble as surely as sparks fly upwards. So if you strike iron with iron, it'll be a spark, and that spark will fly. And that's how, as normal as that spark is, it's how normal challenges are with human beings. So once we understood that, there's nothing that we face that is uncommon. And the same wisdom that has solved it for others, is available to solve it for us. So I think thinking that way helped us to not see a big deal in any challenge, and help us to be confident enough to approach every challenge knowing that there's a solution, versus we'll just keep it like that. And I like something somebody said. one of the beautiful things with marriage is when you've set up a marriage and you have said till death do us part. It means whatever problem you have, if you don't solve the problem, you are going to live with it till death do you part. If you solve the problem, you can enjoy till death do you part. So it gives you motivation to know that this problem, we cannot solve it. It needs to be addressed.
Yeah. It needs to be addressed. Yeah.
So you see, it's not about what you experience. It's not about the challenges you've had. Because you know what? If one person has made it successfully through, that means it is possible. And that means you can do it. So I don't know the challenges you're having in your marriage, but there's no challenge that is just common to you alone. There's no challenge that is unusual, that has not happened to other people. And guess what? There is a solution to fix whatever that challenge is. I hope this offers you some bit of comfort. All right, so we delve in and look at the various aspects of what the other couples had to say that we decided to put in together. Now, we've talked about several things. Usually I tell people, I say, conflicts define a relationship. Love brings us together, but conflicts define how we are able to stay together or not. And this is because we face challenges. These challenges, we would either use them to grow or they will pull us apart. Now, how we handle challenges is by communication. So communication is huge in marriage. Communication is vital in marriage. And then most times communication is tested the most during conflicts. So we are going to be looking at what our couples had to say about the various challenges they've had in their marriage. So like we say with conflicts, usually how you handle conflicts in your relationship is dependent on your family culture, what you want as a family. And during our conversation with the Umobis, they talked a lot about their family culture and how it has been a propeller and a way to define what is acceptable in the family, how they raise their children, the kind of experiences they choose to have in their relationship. Let's listen to what they had to say about their family culture. So I ask you, what's the vision? What's the purpose of your marriage? Is it just because you love each other? Because that will not be enough. To have a marriage that withstands storm, you need to have a reason bigger than just the both of you, a reason that keeps you together even during the hard times. And having that will determine how you raise your children, where you send them to school, what kind of education you want them to have, because it's all combined together in your family culture. Now, the family culture definitely is different from your tribal culture and all. It's what you are creating in the house, what you want your house to represent, and the kind of identity, the kind of legacy you want to live as a family in this world. If you don't have it, it's time to begin to look into having your own family culture. Now, talking about conflicts, listen to what the Akiyemis had to say about communication and how they found a way through their conflicts to come to this place where they are having little or no fights.
So I mean, I think the primary one that I would like to speak to is maybe communication. And just like I mentioned earlier, we speak with many couples and we see that increasingly it seems like people don't want to face and address issues. They just want to play the ostrich, hide their heads. The husband can say, I want to take a walk, I want to drive out. Or the wife will go and look for what she wants to watch, and leaving the issue untreated. And then another issue comes, is untreated. I mean, and then it begins to pile up. And then when something very heavy happens, it seems like, what's causing all of this, all this. So I would say that communication is at the foundation of facing and managing challenges. Yeah. So is at the foundation of it. communication is critical, and being able to have the courage to address the issues, especially when you are the one on the that has maybe the short end of the stick, or you're at a disadvantage when it comes to that particular issue. One needs to be able to. I mean, he spoke about the first, second year of marriage. We had to do a lot of facing and managing conflicts by addressing the issues, and then of course we told ourselves we would not go to bed with an issue unresolved. When you mention it to young couples these days, they'll be like, oh, here is your case if you like, and I usually just wonder these days that, hey, if we didn't establish that as a rule of thumb in our first few years of marriage, we'll not be having a breeze today. Today, I'm just thanking God that, thank God, because there were days that you'd be sleeping at 3 o'clock, you're talking through an issue. You're talking through, because you don't want to go to bed. Then it looks like, are you the one that killed? Yes, we're the one that killed Jesus. But I mean, so for us, it helped us to be able to address and manage issues. So things that have to do with communication. Okay, I have a perspective. I feel that if I communicate it, it can be misunderstood because I raised it, maybe in the past, and then it wasn't taken well. So but as we talk through it, I will know, okay, this works, this shouldn't work, because the dynamic of each marriage is really different. So, but if we don't address it, if we don't talk through it, we'll not be able to resolve. So there are many things that surround communication as a topic in itself. So communication is a key one, just like.
Okay. So if I can build a little on that, yeah, I'll say that if you come to our home and stay with us maybe for the last 10 years, you probably will not see us ever quarrel. You probably will not see us even seriously argue in a way that shows anger. And it will look like, is this heaven? But if you are in a marriage, you must understand that in everything you are building in this world, there's a maturing process. And that maturing process is like flying a plane, okay? When you want to take off, they will say fasten your seatbelts. That's because on that runway, and when you take off, it will be turbulent. But after a while, you fly to the clouds. And when you're in the clouds, the captain will announce and say, you can now unfasten your seatbelts. The cabin crew will go around and serve food. Cabin crew can stroll around. The marriage is cruising. Okay? And another time when there will be some bumps again as well is when you are landing a new child, and all of those kind of seasons. But you must understand that there's a maturing process. And that maturing process, like I said, communication is vital. And then there are a few rules as well you want to use to guide your relationship. I'll give you a few. So one rule, for example, is a 3-string chord is not easily broken. A 3-string chord is not easily broken. It means if it's just about two of us alone, it's easy to break. But if we involve God in our relationship and we do things out of our mutual respect for God, then it's not easily broken. Number 2, we say ascribe the best intentions. That means whatever happens, I must believe that what my wife did to hurt me, she did it with the best of intentions. She must also believe that whatever I did to hurt her, I must have done with the best of intentions. Number 3, we'll say practice advanced forgiveness, meaning I am willing to forgive you before you offend, so that when you offend, it won't pay me so much.
It'll be easy to.
4, we'll say we don't go to bed without resolving any issue. So you can have a few guidelines, and some of those things you may think, is there a formula book that has 20 items like this? I think you discover them on your journey. You learn from others, and you discover your journey as well, how to set the boundaries and the parameters around your relationship that ensures that, you are able to at least have those seatbelts are the rules. Have those seatbelts that govern you in the takeoff part of your relationship. So by the time you take off, you can remove the seatbelts. You'll still be guided by, by them. So those are my thoughts here.
Well, I'm sure that those points he gave will be something you want to consider. Now, it doesn't have to be exactly that. You have to figure out what works for you, or find a set boundaries, find systems that help you to set boundaries around your relationship so that things don't just happen to you. You determine how and when and what you can do about it. For example, one of the things we do in our relationship is this: if we are angry, either of us is angry, nobody is permitted to sleep out of the bedroom because you are angry. We sleep together on the bed because that's the time we'll be able to talk. But if one person walks out and goes to sleep on the sofa, we will not have time to settle that conflict. And you want to settle conflicts as fast and as quick as possible. Now, with this couple, they did a lot of work when they were younger, when they were newly married, so that now they have very little to do because they already know what works for them and what doesn't. So spend that time, invest that time, and walk through conflicts right now. If you didn't do it earlier on, you can begin to do it now and get it done. So speaking about conflicts, again, the normalization thing. Conflicts do not just happen to one person. So I can give you a list of general things that couples fight about. They are common in many relationships. If one is not in your relationship, 2 or 3 will be in your relationship. That's how it works. So when we spoke with the Davos, I read to them part of that list and asked which of those things they see in their relationship. It was a very funny conversation because they were looking back at the things that usually would hurt them in their relationship. Now listen to this.
Yes, you are.
Yeah. And then, of course, when it comes to emotional expression, of course, we actually express our emotions differently. I can attest to that, And sometimes I am not as very expressive. I can give that to myself. I know I'm not that expressive, sometimes my emotions just shows up in just little actions, but to physically see it, you may not just get it. You have to be very, very good at reading to have me, have an understanding of what I'm going through.
Wow. So how has this difference?
So the reverse is the case for her.
Yes, okay, so she's the one that is expressive. How has this difference played out in your relationship when things happen?
Of course, that will also tell why sometimes for me it takes a longer time before we settle any disagreement or any issue. You understand? Because I would love to be alone, process it alone, and then do all the back and forth in my mind, settle it in my mind before we settle physically. So of course that has also contributed in that. But for her, she'll just tell you, no. Address it and it's finished. Sometimes I'll be looking at her suspecting she's still angry, only for me to wait over time and discover when she has expressed it, it has, it's gone.
So what is there to do again? We are together, we're in this, we die here. So what is it? The best I can do is to tell you, okay, this is it. And then life goes on. The next minute I will do as if nothing happened. But for him, he doesn't even want to call my pet name when we're not on the same page. You just say, you just stop. He won't even call anybody's name.
Next point.
He won't call anybody's name. You just stop. For me, we can just find out. Just say, sweetie, can you do this for me? Husband.
Wow, interesting. But that would mean that at some point your relationship will also be fun, because when he's boning, you don't have anything in mind, so you can make fun of that, and make and then it's something that you share as laughter, right?
Yeah. Yes.
I hope when she does that, he doesn't feel like, what? Get out from here. Accepting this difference is what makes a marriage work. And the ability to make fun out of things that we usually disagree with is very healthy for a relationship. So are you able to do that in your own relationship? Now, when I spoke with the Inuwas, the Inuwas talked about their conflicts. They said when they got married, they were having so many issues. And then at some point, the wife said that she wanted to be all, to be enough, sufficient to fill her husband's life so that he doesn't need anything outside. Isn't that the illusion that a lot of us come into love with, that will be enough for our partner, that just us will be what our partners need in life? Well, listen to this and hear what they had to say.
Yeah, thank you for that question. I started laughing because I remember one particular one that pained me very much. You know, we got married newly. I can't remember whether it was the first year, the second year, or what. But there was a day I think probably the second year, there was a time I was sick. My husband he said he's a coach. So he loves, of course, we were not that rich to have DSTV and all of that. So he used to go to the viewing center, you know, so I was sick. I was on medication. So he now said, he's going to the viewing center and all of that.
There was a very good football match that day.
So normally I calculate, at least I tried, and I knew that football, 45 minutes first half, 45 minutes second half, and then maybe extra time, 15 minutes or something. So I just calculated that. I don't think I added the extra time. So he came and said, there's a match, he wants to go watch the match. I said, okay. But as he was going out, in my mind, I was like, so I'm sick and you are going out. You know, this thing of newly married mentality is like, I own you, you are, you know, it's like, I want to replace everything in his life. I want to replace his friends. I want to replace his hobbies. I want to replace his likes. I want to replace all of those things. So when he now said he needed to go, I said, okay. But I was like, I'm sick and you can't even stay with me. You know, then to make it worse, he went to watch the match. I think the match they did, maybe it was finals. So they did the match, they did extra time, and they did penalties or something. So it was more than 2 hours. And I was like, oh, really? And when he came back, he was like, oh, hi, how are you? I said, fine. You know, this kind of fine that is snappy, you know, and that was serious beef. Like, okay, so you just married me to come and keep me in the house like a chair or something and all of that. And so on and so forth. So when I said I wanted to replace everything, truly it was, you know, we keep going back to God. It's just the mercy of God that teaches you that I can't replace, it's only God that can feel a person and become the everything. But I can't, in fact, if I want a better him, he needs to breathe, you know, he needs to have some friends, he needs to have hobbies, something he likes doing and all of that. That doesn't mean that we are not together. But, you know, for me, sometimes I'll say, I think in marriage, even holiday, like he should have some holiday, he should go for maybe 1 week somewhere and just rest. And the wife too should have like a 1 week and just go and rest and meditate and do God's word and then come back refreshed. So that's my idea. But at the early stage of marriage, I felt, you know, like he said, communication was a problem. I do a lot of talking. So for me at that stage, I felt we can't be in a room for 10 minutes and we don't talk to each other. So I'm asking, why are we keeping quiet? And I would say, if we're keeping quiet, it means there's a problem, you know. But as I grew up, God began to show me that life is not like that. I mean, people need space, and people need to process things. And there's so much in a person's life that one person cannot feel it, you know. So like that, and God has been.
I can add to say, I really thank God that we had or came through the experiences we have had, times of disagreement during the earliest days of our marriage. But today I sit down and I think of those things, I will just laugh by myself, because I was like, those foolish days. Those things happen now and they don't mean anything. So with growth, you gain mastery over certain things, things that makes you edgy yesterday. Today they happen and you are smiling about it. And then we could stay for a day or two trying to barely communicate. But now we are learning to talk as quickly as possible, even if we don't agree over things. And our disagreements have really melted. They are not like, they are dying. We don't have those issues like, I just know that with growth, the marriage is becoming sweeter. With growth, there is more understanding because we've given room to understanding, to communication. And if I'm not happy with something, I say, look, I don't like this, and it won't mean like I'm trying to fight, or it's just basic communication. So now we are learning to live together because we have had those experiences, which is a Thanksgiving, really. Mm.
I'm sure that you have learned something powerful from there, that we have to understand that we are individuals and our relationship should give room for that individuality to be expressed. We are a significant part of our partners' lives. They are a significant part of us, but we cannot be everything to them. We cannot feel everything to them. So if you are in a relationship and you're feeling like your partner should not have a hobby, have something they want to do outside you and all, you may want to rethink that, because it doesn't create health and peace and harmony within the marriage. Now, still on the issue of conflicts and how we navigate, I spoke to the Alliance Days, and during our conversation, they talked about how they have been able to grow, their growth process. Now, the wife uses a very beautiful illustration to explain what communication is and all. I think you want to hear this.
Thank you.
Yeah, so
I'm laughing because she reminded me of something earlier in the day.
Okay, so earlier in our marriage, because I was raised, it was a big family. We talked so much, played so much, had fun, and you express yourself and you just keep talking. So when we got married, I already knowing him in our courtship, in the lead up to marriage, and our courtship was very short, about 7 months. From the point we agreed to marry, by November, we got married in June. So knowing, I've known all that is more reserved, more quiet, though he's able to express himself, talk when it's necessary and all that, not that he just bottles up things and then he doesn't release. He's very objective, and then he can actually present himself, explain himself out. But when we got married, I realized that I talk more. I will want to continue this discussion, tell him about things, both trivial, both sensitive, both important, both fun, humorous, and everything, just the discussion. And today I was giving him a scenario that for me, it looked like a particular, like a program that you're running, the communication life, and then you have a lot of courses to take, both elective and core courses, and everything actually is important for you to graduate, for you to gain mastery in that particular program. I said, so communication is like that. Some are trivial, some are important, all this make up a good communication. It can't just be strict, it can't just be serious. and sometimes it's humorous, and all these things help our communication. But it wasn't so. So I remembered one particularly. We were on our way close to NYSC in Jos, that road, Mihango Road. And then I'd been talking in the car. After a while, now turned to him. How you've not been saying anything? And he said his mouth was paining him. So I wondered that I've actually been the only one really talking and asking and all that. Does that mean I'm the one that, like, there's no...
Like, seriously, please, doctor, how does a person...
And I've never heard such in my life, that anybody who's my mouth is paining me for talking. So it was
all the orbicularis oris, all those muscles, the buccinator, the masseter.
And he hasn't really talked much in the conversation in the car, because we're going home, and everywhere cannot be quiet. We should keep the atmosphere, the atmosphere lively and all that. So I didn't like it, and I expressed my concern and my displeasure, especially with that statement that his mouth was paining him. So I expressed myself that I didn't like it. So then, presently, we have come by personal transformation, personal growth, and knowledge. He talks more, I talk less. Like, I don't talk the way I used to talk before, but it's not as just, those extremes are no longer, because they were not helpful. They were not helping us, and it cannot help. It can't build a good communication life. And when we are not good communicators, it will reflect in our children's lives too. We can only make a replica of ourselves. We can only bring up children like ourselves. So we had to look into it and began to change, because he has grown like that. I've grown like that. I knew that mine too was too much, and his was so bad. So there had to be a coming to not just a middle line, but a personal transformation individually, knowing that this is necessary, this is important, whether once it has to do with what you have to do with relationship, somebody you love, people you are in relationship with, you just have to communicate.
And by the way, that was not a malicious statement. That was like actual, true. Like, yeah, it wasn't. I'm serious. It was.
It was the truth.
I kind of like to think of myself that I don't have the capacity to say things like that. It's scathing me, but gently. So it's now, we began to understand that there is the need to really express and then communicate with each other. And there is the need to also give space in communication. I like quiet. Like, quiet is something to me. Helps you meditate, helps you to think about the future, helps you to even talk to God. There's that space, right? And that space needs to be created. But again, you need to be able to communicate concerning certain things. I prefer to listen. Even till today, I prefer to listen than to speak. And I think it's good in a sense. Yeah. But when you're in a relationship and you don't talk about things, even things that are not the core course, she uses the illustration of, this is all of life is this curriculum. There are core courses you need to talk about, but there are now elective courses that, well, maybe not. You need to pass all of them to be able to come up excellently. So I began to learn how to talk about the electives more and more. I think that we're in a good place now.
Wow, so my question to you is, are your electives as important in your relationship as the main causes? Do you give time to the electives as well? Because you have to pass them all. That's what communication is about. I like the fact that this couple emphasized that they grew. So when they came into the relationship, the wife was a talkative, let's use that word, permit me, and the husband was really quiet. But she said that they grew to a point where he talks more. That's, he increased in the way he talked, and then she reduced the way she speaks. So at the end of the day, coming together became a blessing, because as they came together, they helped each other become better by personal growth, not by insisting or pressuring or demanding change, by influence, by growth, by openness. In your relationship today, how can you use your conflicts? Because this is something I teach regularly, using your conflicts to grow as an instrument for growth instead of something that will pull down and damage your relationship. All right, so we're still moving on, and I want us to, living apart is something that has become more regular in our day, because people work in different places. Sometimes they start together and eventually work close, and one person out of town or the other. And we had a couple who experienced that for a length of time in their relationship. They have been married this year, maybe 40 years, but they spent so many years apart. You want to hear what they have to say?
That time was very stressful. At times when the children were strong, when they were sick, you know that you have to stand in. Sometimes I will have to take time off from work to take them to the hospital. After I might have treated them, I told you I'm a nurse.
Yeah.
I have to treat them, because one thing is that somebody that left you in care of the children, what to him when he comes? So one has to play both roles diligently. And at every point in time, you could see anything wrong with the children, you have to be proactive, so that there won't be any complications, so that there won't be any loss in the family. Yeah. Likewise, if there is any celebration, I have to be there, because he will not be there. True. Especially at his own side. They will ask questions. And I will be ready by the grace of God to answer them that he's not around. Some that did not even know the nature of his job, every now and then, you said he's not around. Some will even visit. They will not meet him at home. They will spend 1 week, 2 weeks, they will not see him at home. That's the nature of his work. But by the grace of God, I've been able to cope.
To you is, what are you doing deliberately to ensure that if you stay apart, it's not so long as much as possible, and then you keep your connection and your intimacy despite being apart, because that is huge and critical to make a relationship work. Now, as that couple spoke about living apart, they also mentioned the importance when the Ojos talked about living apart, they mentioned the importance of family, how family helped them to raise their children, to do a lot. What are you doing with family? In-law relationship is huge. And if even in the West, where they don't have as neat a family as we do here, in-law relationship is so vital that it plays a critical role in how stable a relationship is. Do you manage your in-law relationship well? Now let's have a listen to what the Olusanyas have to say about in-law relationship.
Thank you very much. You see, they are no longer babies. They are adults, and they see the way we are receiving other people. I've let them realize that in life, you never know where you are going to find yourself. So your level of tolerance and acceptability is very, very important.
Yeah.
So the way we welcome people, so we've imbibed that culture in them. You understand? So in fact, they will be the one to be going up and down to make sure that they settle other people. They want to see that they want to see that they are comfortable. So they will go to the rooms that we allocate to them. So okay, have you eaten? So what do you want? Okay, come on, let's go to the sitting room. Let's go and watch telly. Let's go. So if as we are talking to you now, we have about 6 people around us, apart from our own immediate family. So that has been that's the way they were brought, or they are being brought up. And there's another thing that I told my wife that I don't want my wife to use other people's children. That is, as she's training the other people's children, she should also train my own children. My sons, they can grind pepper on the grinding stone. They can cook. They can do all sorts of things. That's the way we brought them up. And in fact, they are they became an envious to some people around. So people are now trying to emulate what we the kind of culture that we imbibe in them. So it has helped us a lot.
So granted, you are the spouse, you are number one, but that person still has brothers and sisters, and opening up to them is one way to help you have stability in your home. You want to create a harmonious relationship. You want to set boundaries, but you also want to open up to them, because if you do, it will help stabilize your home even further. It will give your children a beautiful experience if you are able to do that. So as we continue to have our conversation with the Olusanyas, they talked about something that brings us back to the issue of culture, their own home culture, how they wanted to raise their children. They have so many people living in their home, but they wanted something definite for their children. Take a listen.
All right. So over time, we've been privileged to counsel quite a number of couples. I can't even count how many now, but there has been something that reoccurs most times. Most couple do not believe that after marriage, they need to still open their homes to family members. They believe it's supposed to be me and my wife, me and my family. The kind of society where we find ourselves in Africa does not give room for such. And that's the first thing that creates trouble in any marriage. Once the either of the couple does not want to accept the other's family member. For example, if a newly married wife doesn't want to accept the siblings of the husband, it becomes something else. You can't suddenly separate siblings. Fine, he is your husband, but he is also their own brother, and you cannot detach him from them. They've been together all their lives, and you now want to claim him to yourself only. No, it doesn't happen now. It won't work. It will create rifts in that family. Or you don't want your mother-in-law to come and visit. You tell your wife, tell your parents not to come yet. Why? So we always encourage that they should have open mind and accept one another's family as their own. They should see that they are gaining a new family. That's the first thing that we observe that creates issues.
So again, it brings the question, what's the culture in your home and how do you want your children to be raised? All that has to be defined in your family vision, in your family mission, so that you raise your children based on your goals and your vision. If you don't have that, it's time to create that. So going further, we know that, like we were saying earlier, we live in a world where we have so much to do. And sometimes it is challenging to have balance, to strike a balance. Sometimes balance even looks like a myth because of the demand that we have to do. But when you have small children, it is important that your relationship with those children, because they need you, especially the mother, who we assume is the primary caregiver. In some cases, the father is. They need you so much, but your partner also needs you. So how do you balance that? Let's hear what the Dixons had to say about this balance.
I have sons, and at a particular point in time, he was out of town. So I was with the kids, and it wasn't an easy thing. Now, I had one or two problems because I was raised a Muslim. I went to Islamic school and learned how to read the Quran and other things. So by the time I got married and I started having kids, the two of them, I was actually slightly confused on how Christians raise their children, So I had to learn. Good thing, they go to a Christian school. They're running ACA, Accelerated Christian Education, as of that time. I had to use the method I was raised with, a lot of cramming of the Bible, a lot of memory verses with cane, I hold my cane, and you must know your memory verses and other things, because that was how I was raised. You go to Islamic school and you memorize the Quran. So I brought that into the marriage without knowing that a lot of Christians don't do that. But again, recently, they are both they're teenagers now. And recently, one of them looked at me and was laughing. We're having a conversation at the dining table, and he said, that mommy does this, and you can so flog. And I'm kind of, okay, what did I do? He said, you that you return your eyes and look at somebody, the person will just sit down and keep quiet. You know that you've done something wrong. And I'm kind of, okay, so what happened? And later the boy said that there's hardly any memory verse, Bible character, and other things that he doesn't know, that you have to learn it by force. So I had to explain to him, don't blame me. This is how I was raised. So I thought this is how it should be. Whereas a lot of people don't do that anymore, So now with the kids and their father, they took my time, which you can't take that away. But the most important thing is how to strike a balance. Balance is difficult, but you have to strike a balance depending on the kind of job that the man is doing. Now, most of the times, children are connected to their mother. It's natural. Yeah. And, when mine were growing up, they were and the husband is, let's say, a doctor or an engineer who goes out in the morning, comes back at night.
Rings that bind, an online program where our couples help keep the marriage conversation going. Just like life itself, marriages have their own ups and downs. Committing to another individual until parted by death is not always smooth sailing, but it can and does endure challenges and trials. Rings that bind is a Zoom program that is being streamed live on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram pages of BridgeAfrique magazine,
and PANACEA VILLE International that featured long married partners sharing how they have been able to keep it together both through good and rough times. Marriage is not a bed of roses, but with God in the factor, with love, commitment, perseverance, a home of bliss is surely achievable. We all know that divorces and separations take a heavy toll on all those involved, including the children of the union concerned. A lot of emotional, financial, and physical stress comes with the territory, and that is why we at Rings That Bind team are using this platform to help reduce the incidences of broken homes across our societies. It is always said that where two elephants fight, it is the grass that suffers. If you and your partner have been married for at least 10 solid years, then you are surely doing something right. Therefore, we are inviting both of you to join us on a live Zoom session where we will get to know the ways and means you ensure that your wedding ring, which you exchange on that fateful day, indeed bind both of you together and forever. You will be helping so many couples who would love to learn from you and apply the winning formula to their own marriages for the successful continuation of their matrimonial home.